4 years after divorce. She entered a cafe with her daughter, unaware her billionaire ex was there. The rain hammered against the cafe windows like 1,000 tiny fists, each drop a reminder of the storm that had become Maya Chen's life. She pushed open the glass door. Her daughter Lily's small hand clutched tightly in hers, both of them drenched despite the short sprint from the bus stop. Maya's hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the weight of the envelope in her pocket. The hospital bill, stage 3, 6 months of treatment, maybe more. $47,000 she didn't have. She had exactly $11.43 in her checking account, and a daughter who still believed her mother could fix anything. As the warmth of the cafe embraced them, Maya forced a smile for Lily, swallowing the fear that threatened to consume her whole. 4 years. It had been 4 years since Maya signed those divorce papers with shaking hands. 4 years since she walked away from the marble mansion in Connecticut, from the designer clothes, from the life that had slowly suffocated her soul. She'd married Daniel Whitmore when she was 23, young, naive, and convinced that love could bridge any gap, even the chasm between a small-town girl from Ohio and a hedge fund prodigy destined for billions. For 5 years, she'd tried to be the wife his world demanded, polished, silent, ornamental. But somewhere between charity galas and bored dinners, Maya had disappeared. She became a ghost in her own life, watching Daniel's eyes glaze over whenever she spoke, feeling invisible in rooms full of people. The divorce was civil, as these things go among the wealthy. Daniel's lawyers were efficient. She took nothing but her clothes and her dignity, refusing the settlement that would have kept her comfortable forever. "I don't want your money," she'd told him, her voice steady even as her heart shattered. "I want my life back." She'd been 8 weeks pregnant with Lily then, though she didn't know it yet. She never told him. It wasn't revenge or spite, it was survival. She couldn't raise her daughter in that golden cage, couldn't let Lily grow up thinking love meant emptiness wrapped in expensive paper. "Mommy, can I have a hot chocolate?" Lily's voice pulled Maya back to the present. At 3 years old, her daughter was all wide brown eyes and infectious giggles, blissfully unaware that her mother had cried in the shower that morning, had skipped lunch for the 3rd day in a row to save money, had lain awake calculating impossible. Mathematics where hospital, bills plus rent plus food never, equaled the meager salary from her 2 jobs. "Of course, baby." Maya's voice cracked slightly. She'd find a way. She always found a way. The cafe was one of those trendy places in downtown Boston, exposed brick, Edison bulbs, the scent of freshly ground Ethiopian coffee beans. Maya normally avoided such establishments, but Lily had begged after seeing the colorful macarons in the window, and Maya couldn't remember the last time she'd said yes to something frivolous. Maybe it was the diagnosis. Maybe it was the way the oncologist had looked at her with such careful pity. Maybe she just wanted one normal moment before everything fell apart. She didn't see him at first. Daniel sat in the corner booth, laptop open, phone pressed to his ear, every inch the billionaire he'd become since their separation. Whitmore Capital had gone from successful to stratospheric, and his face graced the covers of Forbes and Fortune with predictable regularity. He looked older, not in years, but in weight. The weight of success, perhaps, or loneliness. His dark hair was threaded with silver now, and lines creased the corners of his eyes. He saw her before she saw him. Saw her helping Lily onto the tall chair at the counter. Saw the way her clothes hung slightly loose on a frame that used to be fuller. Saw the exhaustion etched into features that haunted his dreams 4 years later. Something in his chest cracked open. Some carefully sealed chamber he'd locked the day she left. Maya was laughing at something Lily said when their eyes finally met. The laughter died on her lips. For a heartbeat, the crowded cafe fell away, and they were 23 and 25 again, meeting at that bookstore in Cambridge, him lost in the poetry section, her recommending Neruda with shy enthusiasm. Maya. He was standing now, phone abandoned, crossing the cafe like a man pulled by invisible strings. Is that... Mommy, who's that?" Lily stage whispered, loud enough for everyone nearby to hear. Maya's hand instinctively moved to her daughter's shoulder, protective, possessive. "An old friend, sweetheart." The lie tasted bitter. "Daniel, hi." "Hi." Stupid, inadequate. He had a vocabulary of 50,000 words and a graduate degree from Wharton, and all he could manage was hi. His eyes moved to Lily, really seeing her now, the shape of her nose, the curve of her chin. Math had always been his gift, and this equation solved itself instantly. 3 years old, 4 years since the divorce, 9 months of pregnancy. The color drained from his face. Maya, is she... Don't! Maya's voice was quiet but sharp as glass. Please don't. They stood in terrible silence, the truth hanging between them like a living thing. Daniel's mind raced. Through 4 years of quarterly, reports and acquisitions and speeches, through nights of deliberate distraction and carefully curated emptiness, and realized with stunning clarity that he'd been running from the only thing that ever mattered. Can we talk? His voice was hoarse. Please. Maya wanted to say no, wanted to grab Lily and run, but something in his eyes, something raw and desperate and achingly familiar, stopped her. 5 minutes. Lily, stay right here and drink your hot chocolate, okay? I'll be right there. She pointed to a table by the window. They sat. Rain continued its percussion against glass. Daniel opened his mouth several times before words emerged. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered? Maya met his gaze steadily. You were already married to your work, Daniel. We were just roommates with a marriage certificate. I wasn't going to trap you with a child you didn't want into a life you were clearly miserable in. I wasn't miserable. He stopped. That was a lie, and they both knew it. I was an idiot. I was 25 years old and terrified. I'd lose everything I'd worked for if I took my eye off the ball for even a second. And I lost you instead. Lost you both, apparently. You didn't lose what you never had. The words landed like a physical blow. Daniel absorbed them, nodded slowly. You're right. But Maya, I've regretted every single day since you left. I've gone to therapy, I've done the work, He laughed bitterly. I've become obscenely wealthy and realized that every dollar is just another measurement of how badly I failed at the only thing that mattered. Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes but refused to let them fall. It's been 4 years, Daniel. We've built a life. Lily and I are fine. Are you? His eyes were too sharp, too knowing. He'd always been able to read her. Because you look exhausted. Maya, you look like you're carrying the world. And His voice broke. Please let me help. I don't need your help. The words were automatic, defensive. The same words she'd said when she refused the settlement. The same stubborn pride that had carried her through 2 jobs and a 1-bedroom apartment and pasta. Dinner 6 nights a week. What if it's not about need? Daniel leaned forward, and there was something in his face she'd never seen before. Humility, maybe, or grace. What if I just want to know my daughter? What if I want to try to be someone you both could not hate? Maya's carefully constructed walls began to crack. She pulled the hospital envelope from her pocket, not entirely sure why, and set it on the table between them. You want to help? I have cancer, Daniel. Stage 3. Lily needs, if something happens to me, she'll have no one. That's what terrifies me. Not the dying, but leaving her alone. Daniel stared at the envelope like it was a bomb. When he looked up, tears were streaming openly down his face. No, you don't understand. You can't. His hand shot across the table, grabbing hers with desperate intensity. I'll pay for everything. Any treatment, anywhere in the world. And Maya, I swear to God, if you let me, I will make sure that little girl is never alone. Not for a single day. I don't want your money. But her voice wavered this time. It's not about money. Daniel's thumb traced circles on her palm, a gesture so familiar it hurt. It's about family. It's about making things right. I can't fix the past 4 years, but maybe I can earn the next 40. Lily's giggle carried across the cafe. They both turned to watch her charming the barista, telling some elaborate story with grand hand gestures. She had Maya's smile and Daniel's fierce intelligence, and looking at her, Daniel felt the full weight of what he'd missed. First words, first steps, first everything. She's incredible, he whispered. Yes, Maya's voice was thick with emotion. She is. I meant it, Maya, let me help. Not as some savior or hero, but as someone who wants to try. If you can't do it for yourself, do it for her. Let her know her father. Let me know her. And let me make sure you're around to see her grow up. Maya looked at this man who'd been her husband. Her heartbreak, her greatest what-if, 4 years ago. She'd been so certain that leaving was the only way to find herself. And she had. She'd become strong and resilient, and whole in ways she'd never been in that mansion. But looking at Lily, at Daniel's tear-stained face, at the envelope that represented both her mortality and her daughter's future, she realized that sometimes strength meant accepting help. Sometimes courage meant letting the walls down. "Okay," she whispered. "Okay." Daniel's breath released in a rush. "Okay?" "One step at a time. Treatment first. Then we figure out the rest." "But Daniel," her grip on his hand tightened. "You don't get to be part-time. You don't get to disappear when things get hard. She deserves better." "We both do." "I know, I promise." "I'm all in." Lily appeared at the table then, hot chocolate mustache across her upper lip. "Mommy, why are you crying?" "Are you sad?" Maya pulled her daughter close, breathed in the scent of her strawberry shampoo, and smiled. Really smiled for the first time in months. "No, baby. I'm happy. This is Daniel. He's someone very special. Would you like to get to know him?" Lily studied Daniel with the solemn assessment only toddlers can manage. Then she grinned. "Do you like macarons?" Daniel laughed, the sound rusty from disuse but genuine. "I've never had one. Will you show me which one to try?" As Lily dragged him toward the display case, chattering enthusiastically about flavors and colors, Maya watched through tears. Outside, the rain was beginning to ease. Somewhere above the clouds, the sun was shining. The road ahead would be hard. Treatment, and tests and tomorrows that weren't guaranteed. But for the first time since reading those test results, Maya felt something she'd almost forgotten: hope. 4 years ago, she'd walked away to save herself. Today, in a cafe in Boston with rain on the windows and her daughter's laughter in the air, she was learning that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone walk toward you. Sometimes healing means opening the door you thought you'd closed forever. And sometimes, just sometimes, second chances taste like macarons and mercy and the possibility of tomorrow. The cancer would be fought. The family would be rebuilt. And through it all, a little girl with her mother's courage and her father's determination would teach them both what they'd forgotten. That love, real love, isn't about perfection or pride. It's about showing up, trying again, and choosing each other over and over, even when, especially when, the world demands otherwise.